All right. Okay, so we're just going to dive right into our introduction, our first ever episode on the pod of seasonal leadership. Our first guest here, first ever guest, is the co-owner of the Spark Group. Been with the company now 2.5 years, one of the fastest growing franchise owners in LEI history. WVU grad and WV native that started on Red Team as a marketing rep, moved into CFM, then ADO, and fought to become the director of Pittsburgh, now stepping into her current role as a franchise owner. Welcome to the pod, Christina Osborne! Okay, so welcome. How are you?
Thank you. I'm great.
All right, so we have some refreshments. So every guest on the pod will do a special refreshment. And a secret about Christina, well, it's not really a secret.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah, start it off.
Is that she loves grapes. So
I do like
we're going to have some sparkling grape. One thing that I was doing was grabbing the mic during the intro, so it might be really loud. Sorry about that.
I might need
Are you
your
going to be
help
able to get
this
it?
Open.
Here, let me see.
Here, you try.
So, how's your day been? What's new with you?
Talked to a lot of customers today.
And
Got a lot of money today. That's always positive.
yeah, that's always positive.
Sold
a little
deal
cash
today.
grab. Sold a deal today. Nice. First day of the month. First sale of the month. I'm not sure if
You're making a bit of a mess.
Okay. Should I just try
But that's okay.
Should I just try to twist?
No.
It's a twist. It's not a
pot.
pot.
I know that, but you don't have it all the way off.
Sorry, guys. Maybe we should have thought about this.
Maybe we'll edit it
before we
out.
recorded. No edits.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, so I'm excited to have you as the first guest. How do you feel? You probably feel honored, right?
I feel very honored, yes. Very excited.
Oh, we have some special guests in the parking lot.
Really? Is he wearing a WVU shirt?
I have no idea.
Maybe we should ask him if he was on the pod. Jesus. You try to open it. Maybe we'll have a refreshment.
Guys, does
Maybe
anyone
not.
know how to...
It's definitely a twist, I think. Maybe you just gotta... Oh.
No. Okay, we're just gonna...
Just let it
full sun.
rip. Oh.
Oh! Frick, I almost put it over my laptop! Can you guys hear that? I need some napkins, honestly. We need some napkins. Okay, it's fine. Oh. It's still fizzy. Okay, we're just gonna let it settle for a second. Oh. I have tissues, so that's good. Do you need any?
You need it. Just move your shirt over.
Oh my God. Are we still mic'd up? Was my light on green?
Yeah, I think so.
Something else was green. Or let me just... This is a disaster. There we go. Got it.
We'll just cut
There
to
you
that
go.
part. Oh,
Just say when.
that's good. Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna cheers to first episode
First episode on the pod.
on the pod.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Okay. Oh, it's fantastic.
It's really good. Really good.
I need some more napkins. All right. So,
Tissues.
first question that we have that we wanted to start with. Sorry if the mic's ruffling. to talk about building since we're rebuilding and growing Pittsburgh again. And I kind of wanted to get into like what it looks like to build a color team.
Okay.
I know you have a lot of experience with that, and CFM leadership is our focal point right now. So I guess from a CFM perspective, what does it look like to build a color team?
Really, like when I first started my CFM journey, I was most excited about like in CFM school was that's great. Was really developing the culture that I wanted. Like I was really excited about that. That was the first thing that always like intrigued me, I guess. So I focused a lot on that. Like I still do that even as like an ADO and a DO and in the position now, but I think it's just a quality of the CFM position that's missed a lot. Like you have a lot of opportunity to really make an impact in your leadership by the way you create the culture of your team in your office.
Yeah.
And it seems so small, but just the way you decorate your office and the little things that you make a habit every day, like the joke of the day and putting the new marketing reps' faces on the walls and just little things like that become more of a habit and a structure, but it creates a culture on your team that makes other people want to be a part of it. So I think there's a lot of tedious things that I could say about being a CFM, like mapping and ride schedules, but to be honest with you, like that was the thing that intrigued me the most, and I think that makes the biggest difference in a good CFM.
What did Red Team look like when you first got the team?
When I first started?
The office. Much different?
Yeah. I mean, it was still in the same office as it currently is now. But we did a lot of redecorating. Even Alex and I like went together and completely redecorated too. So we had a lot of conversations about what we wanted it to look like and how we wanted people to feel when they came in, and feel valued and like have something that like had their name on it or had their face on it. So it was really important for us to decorate for holidays and decorate the door, and like redo that type of stuff like every other month, to keep it fresh and fun for them too. We loved it, but also it was good for them and good for morale. So I mean, I think sometimes you can get kind of in the rut because you don't feel like doing it, but it's really good for new people to see. And like even your people who've been on your team for a long time, it's really fun for them to always like keep them guessing.
Yeah. So I guess leading into the next section, beyond the office, I mean, the biggest time spent as a CFM is in the field. So what are some ways to make the field more fun, or what were some memories you have or things you did as a CFM that worked in that perspective?
To make it more fun?
Yeah, in the field.
I mean, we had a lot of competitions like daily. We were all extremely competitive too. So I think if you build a culture around like performance and like competition, then it makes other people want to compete anyways against each other and against the rest of the office. So we had a lot of different competitions that were daily. As a CFM, it seems really small, but like the first set of the day, I would always like when we would go to Sheets, either buy their lunch or buy them a candy or something really specific to that person, like daily, almost. And that it seems really like minuscule in the grand scheme of things. Like I used one a lot, which is funny, but he's like, just get a Snickers bar. And it's like, it was like $2, but they loved to compete to see who would win that every day. It was just really small and simple. And then we we would do a lot of different things. But work hard, play hard was definitely like our motto. We knew we had to hit a lot of presentations and hit our set goal, but we definitely managed to have some shenanigans throughout the day. Had some run-ins with some snow piles and some signs and sprinklers and stuff. That's
great. All seasons.
Seasonal
leadership.
Seasonal leadership. That's right.
Great. I guess also from a CFM perspective, I think a huge thing to build a team is the relationship with your ADO. So from a CFM perspective, what do you think you can do to increase the engagement and maximize the relationship with your ADO?
It's a good question because I feel like a lot of people always think about this question or perspective from the ADO level. And I'm pretty big on, I think it's very much like a combined effort. From the CFM perspective, I would say the one thing that you can do to always increase your engagement with your ADO and just in the office period is be really reliable. I mean, learn your task and like daily and nightly and make sure they're done, and then communicate that with your ADO daily. So like when you know you finish the ride schedule and your ADO knows what you're supposed to be doing every day, but if you finish it and say, hey, I've finished, just to let you know I've communicated now at this point, I finished the ride schedule, this is what it is, these are the maps I've picked out for the day, let me know if you have any questions moving forward, or you want to see what that looks like. If they say no, great. Usually after you do that for about like a week and a half, they trust you and they don't really check it as often. But it allows for a lot less mistakes if you do that, as well as your ADO will mimic it. It's like a mirror. So if you want to know more about what's going on with your deals or when they're doing round calls and other things like that, if you start to communicate that, they'll just mirror what you're doing. So any type of communication that you seek, try doing it yourself and they'll probably just replicate it for you and with you.
That's an interesting take. I think that made me think like on all levels, even as a ADO, to do that similarly with the DO. Like, you know, this is my team's ride schedule for the day, and like I'm on this deal and this deal. And like, I don't know, I think even as a DO to like whoever your leader is to do that similarly is important. But
it's a learning tactic as well. So like if you're doing it in hopes that, I mean, to communicate your job obviously, but in hopes that they'll potentially do it back, you'll learn a lot more too. Like especially if you're the CFM and your ADO starts to talk to you and how they're operating every day, you'll start to catch, oh, okay, this is when I should be doing this or rearranging my schedule, or when I get in this position, that's when I do that. Is this an appropriate time to do it? And it'll just make it easier, like transition wise.
I mean, it's like an accountability thing. It's like the thing we like love to hate sometimes. I think like for me that was interesting when you came into this role because I felt like I didn't have that. And like initially whenever you would like question me on certain things, I'd be like, what's this about? But I think that's important, and that's like the power of having a team. So. Okay. I guess now, so you say or have said CFM was one of your favorite positions, right? Any last advice for any future CFMs in Pittsburgh or Cleveland?
I mean, I think it's overlooked. I think the CFM position is often overlooked because everybody just ultimately wants to jump into an ADO role. But it wasn't for me. So if it's done correctly, you can make your own money doing it, and you can have a blast and teach other people and really grow your leadership in the CFM position. And if any, I guess, advice I would give to someone who potentially wants to be an owner or be a director is you have to be a really good CFM, or at least know what that leadership looks like, because a lot of what you do in the director seat is creating a culture and learning how to appropriately plan your weeks and communicate. So yes, you're still going to be selling deals and doing that. And that's going to be a large aspect of how the business runs. But I really feel like on a leadership level, the CFM position matches the director position the closest. Especially like in operating in all of them right now. It just allows your leadership to be like branded and, you know, can step out. And I think it's important if you're looking to be a great director and inspire a city to do that on a color team level.
Okay. I guess now, and we talked about CFM, which I think a transition period for a lot of our current people in the ADO role or wanting to be in the ADO role is not only being a CFM, but now like the second layer of that is developing a CFM.
Yeah.
So I guess like moving into the next stage, developing CFM can be difficult and challenging. And I kind of want to hear a little bit of your experience and perspective when you stepped into, or were trying to step into ADO, because you have to find a replacement.
Yeah.
And before you can do that, what did that look like? What kind of challenges did you have? What would you suggest to almost everyone right now that is an ADO or wants to be an ADO is in that position?
I mean, I will say when I first like became the CFM of Red Team, it was a goal to get every person on my team CFM certified. So that allowed me a larger selection to choose from. Also, when you're a large team and you're putting up a lot of numbers, and it allows you to have other people to help you do your job. And people love responsibility and they like being a part of something. Yeah. So yes, they're doing work, but it's not like they're going to be looking at it like that. They enjoy it. They take more ownership for what they're doing. So I never counted anybody out for the CFM position. It was a goal to always get every single person on my team certified. And then it was really up to them, and I had a selection of who I thought would be best for the job. I think right now people always put all their eggs in one basket at first.
Yeah.
And it really hurts them because anybody can do it. I mean, you never truly know who's going to be the best CFM and who has the best leadership. Like, your background can be totally different than what like you would expect somebody to perform well in that role in. So I think just have an open mind and teach everybody how to do your job, and always lead them to know the numbers and ask more questions and spend the time with them. And then when you get to the point to where it's time to make a decision, then you can have more flexibility in what that looks like. So then it's like, okay, well, all these people are certified. They all know how to put in sets. They all know how to do the DMRA. They can do a ride schedule, maps, and all that. Then it doesn't become the question of, okay, who can put in a set slip?
Yeah.
That's my CFM. That's going to be a long journey and a really miserable one, honestly, if you guys don't get along well, if you're the ADO and that's the CFM, if that's all you're basing your decision off of. So yeah, teach everyone by the bulk and as soon as they want to learn.
Yeah.
And then I based my decision after that, because I taught a lot of CFMs and a lot of them at the same time. And it's okay to say the hard things. And they'll probably say I was a stickler, the people who got to experience that. I wouldn't let them move a page without checking every set slip, and they rotated the DMRA, like the DMRAs and the ride schedules and different things, and nobody could move until I checked all of it. But then after everyone was capable, I started to ask myself whose morals kind of aligned with my values the most. And I really didn't care, honestly, which person made the most mistakes. Yeah. I wanted someone who was transparent when they did make mistakes so we could work on it together to fix it, and someone who was going to be teachable and trust me and listen to me.
Yeah.
I knew at that point, if they were humble enough to listen and learn and going to be there for the right reasons and communicate that, then that was what I needed, versus someone who got all the questions right in the meetings, or, you know, was like potential everyone's first guess. But that's why I made the decision I did with Jake, and it was a really serious conversation at the time because I took that position really seriously. Yeah. So, yeah, it was strictly just, and he'll tell you this, it was because he was really teachable, and I knew he would trust me and follow my lead, and we could communicate really well and work together. I really wanted a partnership, not just someone who was going to be questioning me. I wanted it to work well and be cohesive, and that was the decision I made.
Yeah, I mean, I know from my experience, I got really lucky because I had like a regional corporate CFM on my team, but we were really small when I started as an ADO. I was like her and like 2 other people. But I think you touched on the biggest thing, because I was going to ask, because I know there's a lot of people out there right now struggling with like getting a deck or getting someone to commit. But like what you said, which similarly to what I experienced, was like not counting anyone out and pouring into everybody.
Mhm.
I mean, if that's the only person you have and we have to see potential in everyone, it's like do with what you have and what you can, and then like you be in a position to make a choice. And you kind of want to, because not only will that just increase retention, but it'll also get like a bit of competitive nature out of people on your team that will help. But if somebody is, they are like at a really small starting point, and maybe they just have one person or two people on their team, and it seems like they have some marketing reps that are like half in, half out. How would you, or do you think you can build someone's level of commitment as a CFM?
Of course, I think you can always build someone's level of commitment. Not from 0 to 100, but you definitely can build it. But it's going to be a lot of leading by example. I think a lot of people make the mistake of them personally communicating and also acting like they're so desperate to move. Like they're so desperate to move up.
Yeah.
Why would anybody else want to take your position if all you keep talking about is, I want to be an ADO and doing that? But instead, if you take the approach of, I like my job, I like being a CFM, I like coming into work every day, and really embracing that and actually meaning it and having it like a good time, I did not have any desire to move up.
Yeah.
So it was really easy for people to want my job because of that. Yeah. Because I had no desire. So they're like, why does Christina, why does Christina not want to move up? Or like, why does Christina, like this so much? And I would communicate exactly why. I mean, I had fun. Like, I genuinely had fun in what I did. I liked my job. I liked teaching other people, and I allowed people to want to learn from me.
That's funny.
But if you're desperate to get out of it, and people can sense that, and it's like, why? Why are you doing that? It's, is it financial reasons, or is it? Everybody will always have that question. So it's kind of like, I think the best CFMs, for that reason, perform the best and have the biggest teams. Like, if you use Cassie for an example too, she was not moving up.
That's what I was going to say. It's significant because when I think back to the period of time when you were a CFM, there was a lot of people, Cassie's the first person that came to my head as well, that then did something very similar. And
it inspires people to want to really embrace that role and embrace that leadership, because you can make serious money and you can have a good time, and it's still a leadership role. It's just a different type of leadership role. So I think just inspiring other people to be like, yeah, it's still a serious position. It's still like a good position and a fun one.
Yeah.
But yeah, of course, if you're not looking to stay in it, people are going to wonder why.
Why would I
and if they don't
this?
see anybody else doing it, and then at the time when we got so big, nobody else wanted to leave that team. Like, there were other opportunities, but nobody else wanted to go anywhere, because we did have such a good time and the culture was so built that people just enjoyed it. So they would rather stay a marketing rep, which is so funny, than even be a CFM of another team, which is crazy, because that opportunity was presented a couple times.
Yeah, so it's really like making your position, but not only your position, when you get to that level, it's like your entire team culture and leadership desirable to be around.
And if it is, then people will stay and they'll want to be there for the environment.
Yeah.
And find a way to make it work for themselves.
Going into the ADO role a little bit, I think that having a successful CFM is one of the keys. I don't want to dive too much into ADO because I think we touched on what would make an ADO successful already, but anything from an ADO perspective when building a team that you would have advice for?
When building a team, they have to trust you. Your team has to trust you, and you have to trust them. That's really ultimately like how every team is successful in my eyes. Like, the CFM and ADO have to trust each other. I mean, you don't have to be best friends, but you do have to communicate, and you do have to trust that, hey, I'm here to do my job. If I do my job well, you're going to have to do yours well. and just talking and communicating that and understanding the expectations of each individual role. And as long as like you guys can communicate, then it'll be okay. But really, from an ADO perspective, trust is everything. It's really like something I dwelled on a lot or harped on from both perspectives, like being on red team and green team. It's the only thing I ask for. So I'm like, if I ask something of you, please do it. And if I like request something or want to change something, just trust what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And if it doesn't produce results, then we can, recap and talk about it. But I mean, I think that's everything in that perspective.
So I guess too, to that point, it's like if you're an ADO wanting to get a CFM or develop somebody, it is being supportive of whoever that soon-to-be person would be. Again, makes that position desirable because no CFM wants a lazy ADO that doesn't communicate, right?
I don't know. ADO for me, like if you are an ADO and been an ADO for a long time, or you lose your CFM or are looking for a new one and you have to build like a quick relationship or establish yourself, really people want to be in that type of relationship, CFM or ADO, whichever one you're on, is for high trust and high performance. So if you're not bringing any performance, nobody's going to want to trust you no matter what. So you can be really trusting, but if you're not performing, then I'm sorry, it's not going to work, or vice versa. If you're performing really well and they don't trust you, it's not going to work. But I think some people, CFMs and ADOs, even from a director standpoint, but definitely like from an ADO standpoint, sometimes get frustrated with their CFM or marketing reps because they bring them a lot of problems. Like they're always like, bringing you problems, asking you questions. And I read this quote the other day that was interesting. That was just like, if like your soldiers aren't bringing you problems, then they don't trust you anymore. So like it's like an ultimate sacrifice in your leadership. So like you're doing something wrong. If like then you don't have any problems brought to you, they either don't trust that you can handle the problem or solve it.
They're not talking to you anymore. That's interesting. I just have a few main points left to touch on, but one of them that I wanted to touch on is we're talking about this month, like we really want to dominate and head towards a season where we're breaking records. So I wanted to know if there are any records that you've set or you feel would be difficult for our current people to achieve, to give something for some of our current leaders to shoot for, whether it be like most sets in a day as a CFM for your team or most sales in a week as an ADO. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to have to give me a second to think, but I guess from a new marketing rep's perspective, my first month as a marketing rep, I got 27 sets. So
27
hey, as the first month as a marketing rep. So if you're looking for something to beat there as a marketing rep, that's a good goal. It'll get you what you need for sure. As a CFM, I don't even want to say it's so much of a number as in sales perspective. Because I will say if you can retain every marketing rep that you're given in a month, that's a very extreme record.
What was the largest that your team got to, size-wise?
11, I think. Which it always fluctuated. It grew to 13 at one point, but went down in a week.
I think another cool thing that you've done that would be cool for people to strive for is, like, we talk about Red Team was a team that lasted so long. Like, we have some teams that open and don't make it. I hate to say it, but it just happens. But Red Team was one of those teams that lasted beyond, like,
it's crazy. Years someone took it away.
But I think like now it's funny because we get returning customers from Red, and it's like we always say treat your team like a city and it will become one. And one of the benefits of owning a location in a city is that you'll always have, beyond just the fresh leads you're setting, returning business. And there's teams that have established that, Red being one, that to this day could get like a sale a month. just off of
I'm almost positive
the hundreds of leads
we have the
set.
most returning customers for a color team.
That's
I would
crazy.
like to run those numbers, but
me too, yeah.
Yeah, it's profitable without even being open right now, which is pretty cool to see.
And as an ADO, and even when you were a director, maybe you did this, you've sold 3 sales in a day? Not once, but more than once?
Yeah.
A couple of days?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. That's impressive. Yeah, I don't know if I've seen somebody do 4. I'll just throw that out there.
In a day?
Yeah. I did 3 like twice, I think, but I've never touched 4. So that would be significant.
I don't think I've hit 4 either. I've hit 3 a couple different times, but not 4.
What was the most in a week you did as an ADO? I think mine was probably 5.
7.
Whoa.
Yeah.
That's significant.
Yeah. 7.
Dang, 7 paid.
7 paid.
Shoo! That was a payday.
Yep. It was nice. It was nice. It was broke up.
Nice.
But really average, like as a color team, roughly 4. 3 color team, 1 SMM or different team.
Okay. So I want to head into the last topic because I know we're running out of time, but I wanted to ask you about vision because vision is going to be a big aspect of this podcast. You know, love vision. And I wanted just a minute here. What is like the vision? I know we have a vision, but what is your vision for Spark that you see us heading into?
Wow.
That you wanted to share with?
You just thought you would ask this for
a moment? Yeah.
It's great. Our generalized vision for...
Not like a statement, but like what do you see? Like if you were to imagine, you know, what this would look like for everyone a year from now.
A year from now.
Yeah.
Okay, that's the time frame.
Okay.
In a year from now, similarly, I guess to what I was saying about the CFM position, I would just want everyone to be happy, mostly in their current position. It's always nice to see like a strive for more and each person to have a vision that they're trying to achieve. But I think the mistake people make is trying to push too fast or too quickly. So I think just being so immersed in like the culture and the environment that they feel like they don't have the need to necessarily move so fast. They're just so happy with where they're at. And when they're ready to take on another role and we're ready to, you know, promote them another role, then they'll step into it. But I think just to have like a leadership team and a leadership core here and in Cleveland and maybe a different couple of locations that have the availability to not have to promote, you know, because we're always looking to grow, but just to do it based upon performance and everyone just being happy to be here. And that's what I would say.
I guess this question's kind of similar maybe to your answer a little bit, but what is one thing you wish to see this current leadership team that we have right now do differently this year that we haven't done in the past?
I would like to see this leadership team be a lot more focused on results.
Yeah.
I'm a very results-driven type of individual. Some people call it like black and white. The topic today was definitely fit my personality type for sure. There's either doing it or not doing it, getting paid, not getting paid, you know. So I think at the end of the day, just being completely responsible and taking ownership for your individual results and the results for the city, and really, I guess that word, ownership for whatever you're currently doing and being well and being successful in it. Because I think as a leader, when you're here for a long time or you're in a certain position, you can kind of start to come up with excuses or bad habits. And I'm a victim to that too. Everybody is. But I think just recognizing it and making the difference, or telling yourself I need to move up or down or sideways or some ways, because I'm not where I need to be. And instead of maybe making somebody else make that decision for them, I would like them to recognize kind of where they're at and what they need and communicate it. Yeah, a lot of self-awareness, self-reflection is what I would want to see.
That's great. Okay, well, to wrap it up, I have one last question that it's kind of funny because those of you that know Christina, one of her biggest strengths is asking questions. Okay. So it's funny to be in this position and ask you a bunch of questions. Yeah,
it's uncomfortable for me.
That's great. I was going to ask you how it was. But last question you might enjoy. I would like you to ask a question for our next guest. Huh? You don't know who the guest is. I don't know who the guest is. Nope. That's a surprise, but random question for someone for the next podcast on seasonal leadership.
I feel like that's...
What would you like to ask this person?
There's no topic that you
Exactly,
want to...
so you can get creative. It could be like loose and fun, wild and weird, whatever you want.
Wow, okay. Let me really think about it. I think if I knew the next guest, you can give me a hint.
I don't think it's going to be one person.
Wow.
So you're going to be asking this question to more than one person, yeah. Maybe you.
Okay. If you were to ask a room full of people who have been led by you in some point in time in their life or here, what their leadership or what your leadership meant to them or how they would describe your current leadership, what would you want them to say?
That's a good question. Okay, well, that closes us out. I'm looking at some sponsors to the pod.
Cheers.
And I think this might just do it.
Aluminum cup.
I'm gonna get some sponsors that we use, like maybe Don Jones, who does shout out. You know what? Yeah, he does apparel, things like that for the LEI cities.
I need to order some.
But you know, we're looking for paid ads, so I'll hit you up, Don. Cheers, Christina.
Cheers
to first episode. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And that's it. We're out.
It's really good juice.
Woo! Yeah!
Getting amped.
Testing 1 2 testing.